Hey, I'm Mike.
Hey, I'm Ethan.
I watched the first half of A Complete Unknown.
I watched the second half of A Complete Unknown.
And this is the other half. We had to do it.
The podcasts are changing.
Beautiful. You heard that song in your half, probably.
I did,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I was really upset when my half ended. I'm like, I'm missing all the good stuff. I'm missing him going electric. I'm missing, like all the big songs, and stuff.
Yeah. So it's the person who knows probably the least amount of Bob Dylan gets to watch all the parts afterwards.
Yeah.
But welcome to our final episode. Our final episode for the Oscars.
Yes, that's right.
This is our final episode ever.
We're never
to
doing
your
another
dismay.
one. We're going to end it all on
A Complete Unknown. What better movie? What better movie to end it all than on the last Oscar movie? That is a biopic.
Yes, it's a biopic
of Bob Dylan.
Produced by the guy who made Walk Hard.
Walk Hard.
Walk the Line.
Walk the Line.
And I believe produced in conjunction with Bob. Bob Dylan had a hand in the creation of this movie.
Yeah, and the director is James Mangold, right? Who
yes.
did oh my god, why did I always forget? It's the Hugh Jackman one. Hugh Jackman
Wolverine.
When Wolverine they hang out. Wolverine and Sabretooth.
Isn't it just called the Wolverine?
No, I'm talking about not Wolverine itself, although he wasn't.
Logan. You made Logan.
No, I'm not talking about Logan.
Oh.
What am I talking?
I don't know what you're doing.
I'm talking about Kate and Leopold.
Oh.
A movie you watched for the podcast. I was trying to connect it to that.
That's right. Sabretooth.
But I always forget the name of that because I'm just like, it's got the old man and he goes back in time and I don't know.
Kate and Leopold. But yes, yeah, he directed that as well.
So very all over the place track record in terms of quality and stuff.
Yeah, he also made that other movie. Oh my God, it was another Oscar-nominated film. We watched it for the podcast. Ford v Ferrari.
Oh yeah, he did
directed
do that.
that one as well. So I think he's really in his whole I'm gonna make old person movies.
Yes,
now
he is.
Phase of his career.
Movies for old people. There's not enough of them. They always go to the theaters.
And they do. We were at the theater today, and it was full of old people.
Full of old people there.
A lot of old people watching this movie.
And this is a multiplex, so it had a whole range of people outside.
Yeah.
In the actual lobby, there was multiple
Children.
ages. But gathered around.
Yeah.
Ye old Bob Dylan movie, where a whole bunch of old people in there.
Did you at all look? Because we sat. I bought seats that are really high up. Did you look down at all, see if anyone was nodding their heads along? Or?
No, I didn't really see anything. It was kind of hard to see.
It's pretty dark.
It's pretty dark. They keep it dark in there.
Understandably, you want to be able to see the perfect picture quality.
Exactly. You don't want to see any other Bob Dylan heads.
No, that's
true. They start talking to you.
But
yeah, so that's kind of the movie. It's just kind of
basically
that's it.
So good night, everybody.
It's a pretty straightforward.
It's a very
biopic.
straightforward.
There's
film,
nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
There's nothing to really chew on here,
It's unless you're there to it's basically I want to be jerked off to Bob Dylan music. I want to see the hits I know. I want to see the moments I know from when I was alive during that period.
Yeah.
Or I've heard about it. I'm a big history buff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. Do we have any insightful thoughts about being an artist at all? Not really.
Yeah.
I don't think.
It's hard because Dylan has always been an enigma, and he's wanted to be that. And so making a movie about him is so hard because he sort of remains an enigma throughout. He remains a complete unknown.
Yeah,
and the more you know about him, the more you're just sort of he's just this highly motivated artist who wanted to do whatever he wanted, basically, and nothing was going to get in his way of that.
Mm-hmm. Enigma is a really nice term for kind of a dickhead.
Yes, that is a part of, I think, the discourse around this movie is that Bob Dylan was a dickhead. It was kind of an asshole. But, Dylan, like I said, he signed off on this. He, watched the whole...
That's the thing, though. It's you signed off on it, you look at it, and I can't tell if he wants to come away from this being I'm apologizing for me, dickhead, or being look how fucking cool I am. Aren't I fucking cool?
And that is the enigma of Dylan.
It is, but I'm pretty sure he thinks he's cool.
I mean, probably.
He probably thinks he's cool.
I mean, he's probably pretty happy with how it all worked out. He became, he got the Nobel Prize for literature.
And then didn't show up. That's the thing, is the end credits. The last thing he says is, I got the Nobel, he won the Nobel Prize for literature and didn't show up to the awards. And then all the words faded away except for didn't show up to the awards. And I'm just what the fuck?
Ultimate mic drop from Dylan.
It's very weird. It's a very, I don't know. It feels like he's like, check it out. I am a rock star. I can do shit like this and like don't care. And
I'm a badass.
It's that cool thing of like, I'm cool because I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very old, I don't know. To me,
he doesn't care about anything but the art. He doesn't care about anyone or anything but the work he's making, basically. And that's something
to be delve into, I think, in like lots of other movies dive into like what does it mean to make art and things like that. This one is more just like it doesn't really scratch that. It like looks at the surface and says he really cares about art over all things. What's the decision? The whole tension in this entire movie. Yeah. The only tension is he gonna play an electric guitar? Is he going to play electric guitar at the place where folk music is, which is a Newport Festival in Rhode Island? Right. Is he going to play an electric guitar? That's the whole tension. And then if he does or doesn't, and what does it mean? Which is like funny to have that be tense because we all know what he did. Well, I know what he did. Didn't know what he did.
You didn't know what he did.
So the movie was like portraying it as like that was the main point of tension.
Yeah.
So even if you knew what he did, it's even like less
and less tense.
Less tense. You're just like, okay, he's going to, whip out that electric guitar and everyone's mad at him.
I think that was, again, I think that's the thing. And like the other thing I think this movie does that it sort of sucks whenever you see this in a biopic. I mean, there's obviously like really cringy ways that people handle this, but like there's no like deeper understanding of like how he like crafted his lyrics and like crafted his music. It just sort of feels like it's coming out of him, which by his own admission, that's what it felt like when he was like writing his stuff.
Which is like, that's fine, but then it doesn't make a very interesting biopic.
About an artist.
Yeah, so you have kind of like two sides of the coin, right? You have like the Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, who's like, literally they have an event that happens and then they're like, we'll write a song about it. Yeah. And like,
we will rock them.
We will rock them.
Hey, say that again.
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
And but like then you have this where it's just like stuff happens and then he just has a song somewhat like vaguely maybe related to an event. Yeah.
About like historical event.
Exactly. Like everyone's favorite event that we're gonna see future episodes. The JFK assassination inspires him.
He does write a song about the JFK assassination.
Yep. So it's just like, okay, cool. Like I don't know. It's biopics are hard because I feel like we've watched a lot that are very interesting and have a different perspective. And I think you and me both kind of agree that like a small timeline makes it more interesting. And to be fair, this movie doesn't seem to start that far. Like, it doesn't seem to go that far. Like, I only was a year in mine.
It starts in 1961, and it's really
so it's only like 4 years.
Yeah, it's a very small amount of time in his career, basically. Yeah,
which is good.
Yes,
it's a smart way of doing it, but it still felt long.
Yeah, well, I think because there's so many players that need to be introduced.
Yes,
a lot of players that you were unaware of. Like Joan Baez and Seeger and Guthrie and like all these other people that like were important to him. And you need to introduce them. You need to introduce the whole scene and like the context. So then when he ends up playing electric, it's like hopefully as an audience member you understand like why that's such a big deal for them and why it feels like a betrayal to them.
Yeah.
Because like I was watching this movie and like also like to be honest, I had seen a documentary about this sort of time in his career past a guest of the podcast, Sam, showed me this documentary, and it was pretty much about this same sort of time period. And what was really interesting about it, and the thing I took away from that, is this idea that like you had all these folk musicians who saw Dylan as like this like messiah come to bring folk to the masses and like reinvigorate it. And Dylan never seemed like he ever really wanted that. Like he seemed like he just wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. And then when he changed his mind, everyone was just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he's like betrayed us." Whereas he was just like, this is just who I am, man. Like that's just the way it is. Yeah. So watching this movie, I found it to be much more interesting, but I don't think the movie's doing a very good job of following everyone else. like seeing how he's treating like Baez and how he's treating Seeger and how he's treating Guthrie, but then the movie also sort of just feels like these are bits rather than like full-on human beings,
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Yeah, they're kind of just like reflections of like what he does, and it's like here's what this person reacts to, and how they react to whatever Bob Dylan does, as opposed to being like fully fleshed out characters. They all seem to revolve around him.
If only he was portrayed by a CG monkey, maybe that would be the hard
so
swing.
Much better, and doing like a lot of cocaine or something. That'd be great. Instead of Timothy Chalamet, who, to his credit,
He's doing a pretty good
He's
job.
pretty good.
Yeah, he's doing a very good
From
job.
the little I've seen of Bob Dylan,
Yeah.
I don't know. He seems to capture.
He sang
it.
all his own songs.
Yeah.
So did the actor who plays Baez sing, which is insane because like that vocal range is so like particular and like beautiful. Yeah, like everyone. Edward Norton sang his own music too. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. Like that sort of level of artistry.
That is impressive.
It's definitely like I feel like far more impressive than anything we saw in something like a Bohemian Rhapsody, where you know. But yeah, it's like how much of this movie is just sort of like let's just hear let's just hear all the big hits and have them performing on stage.
It does feel like. It feels like a checkbox movie.
Yeah, it feels like a book report movie.
Yeah, we just have to hit all the big notes.
Yeah.
We're running through the Wikipedia of this section.
Yeah.
And isn't really doing anything like really, I don't know, exciting or interesting. As someone who doesn't know a lot about Bob Dylan, I was hoping to like learn a bit of insight. And I understand that it's like he's an enigma and we'll like divulge that stuff. But then it's also like, okay, then what am I here for then? Just to listen to some music and hear the hits?
Yes.
You know, I would like to get a little more insight, maybe some motivation.
Yeah.
What he was like
empathy.
What he was like as a person. I guess I learned a little bit about what he was like as a person, which is kind of a dick.
I think that's a fair question, right? How do you capture an enigma in a film? Do you do it with a checkbox Wikipedia movie, or do you do it with a film that's also sort of an enigma? I think we've talked a lot with our mutual friend Sam about this movie and how it compares to the other like Dylan biopic, which is where they like cast a bunch of different actors to portray Bob Dylan at different times of his career. That's how you capture an enigma, you know? Like that's how you do it.
You make a weird movie to capture weird music.
To show how difficult it is to pin this guy down.
Yeah, and I think that's a cool way of, I don't know, that sounds way more interesting than what this was, which was just a checkbox list. And it's like, okay, if I'm not interested or invested in this, it's like watching a condensed like Marvel movie where you're
what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying, like, because you're like, all right, I want to see my favorite character shows up. I want to point at the screen and go, I know
that's Johnny Cash,
and then they're gonna fight each other because I know they're gonna fight each other, and I can't wait for that to happen.
Right.
And it feels like that, but with like, for old people.
Well, speaking of old people, the movie begins in 1961, so this is a very old. Takes place in an old time. Movie opens actually with a Woody Guthrie song. Opens the movie, and
by the way, we're recording in the car.
Oh yeah, we're doing a car cast.
We're doing
again.
a car cast again, right outside the theater. So if we mess up any this is for me mainly. If we mess up any musician names like forget
I already
people,
feel like I've done that.
Or get people's names wrong, excuse me. I was not able to look at the Wikipedia afterwards and like clean it up. So I'm gonna do my best. But please forgive me.
You can only do these sorts of notes as best as you possibly can in a theater setting. I will probably also have a list of all of the actors in the movie, so I can go back to that and go like, yes, I remember this guy. And yes, this guy. Like one person I forgot to mention was Dave Van Ronk, who's Dave Van Ronk, who was another he's the dude with the big beard in the movie. He's very sort of like outspoken and very loud. You see him in half the movie.
Yeah. He runs the festival or works at the festival.
Yeah, he was another a musician at the time. Another he was like really big in the another really well known folk singer, and I believe the movie that the Coen brothers made about the folk movement was about him.
Oh really?
Yeah, that I can't remember. Inside Llewyn Davis was sort of based around him as well. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, we're probably gonna get some names wrong. So apologies for that, but we're gonna do the best that we possibly can.
The best
here.
we can in this car.
Yes.
With hopefully people. I'm really scared someone's gonna park right in front of us.
Yeah.
We got a big open spot right now.
I know we're parked in the middle of a parking garage.
Very much in the middle.
Yeah.
It's very crowded.
We'll do the best we can. We're gonna go as quickly as we possibly can too, because there's a lot of stuff to get through.
There's a lot. It's a long movie, man.
The movie opens with the Woody Guthrie song, the lyrics of which include the lyrics, "It's been good to know you," which is, again, I think it goes back to the idea of no one truly knows who Dylan is. The movie opens in 1961. We see Bob hitchhiking into New York, and he arrives in New York, and nobody knows who he is. Obviously, he's a complete unknown, complete stranger to everyone.
Wow, that's the name of the movie.
And yes, and he's there, and he runs into some members of the folk movement who are all hanging out, and he's trying to find where Woody Guthrie is. He knows that Woody Guthrie is in a hospital. He doesn't know where it is. And one of the guys, who I believe is the guy you just mentioned, Dave Van Ronk, shows up and is like, "Oh yeah, he's he's back in New Jersey, and he's like, I just came from New Jersey to New York, and he's like, you're gonna have to go back then. So do you know who Woody Guthrie is?
No.
He was like the father of the folk movement. He wrote "This Land Is Your Land."
Okay.
He was he was the dude who famously had the guitar that says "This machine kills fascists."
Oh yeah. Sounds like a cool dude.
He was a really cool dude, and then he pretty much became like this broke, penniless dude because he was also like really into like "This Land Is Your Land" is essentially like a socialist song about the idea that we all should own, like this is our land, not their, not like the land of the rich, it's the land of the people on it.
That song, yeah.
That's like where like folk originated from. The music of the folks and stuff like that. And so Woody Guthrie is someone that everyone looks up to in the folk movement, but particularly Dylan. And so Dylan's trying to find where Woody Guthrie is, and he's like, I got to go back to New Jersey from New York, but then we cut away. And this is one of the things I kind of have an issue with the movie is the way that the story is told. So like obviously you got to start the movie with Bob. So we see him arrive in New York, and then they hard cut away from Bob, and then we go to Seeger. We were introduced to Pete Seeger, who is played by Edward Norton. And he is he's guilty of contempt of Congress for writing and singing music that again has a very left-leaning like sort of music to it. And he's just like, well, this is the kind of music I like to play, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he's sort of this just like ho hum, everything's. He's almost like sort of like a Mr. Rogers
he
style.
Does. I felt like that.
Yeah.
He felt like. I mean, he even has like a TV show, right, on like a public access that.
Does he?
You maybe you don't see it in your half
No,
because they
I
probably
don't.
are just like we have to reference this.
Yeah.
In my half, so yeah, he is very Mr. Rogersy.
Yeah, and then he ends up he ends up being guilty of.
Who also didn't Mr. Rogers testify in front of Congress at some point?
Yeah,
For,
but
like,
he was doing it
public
to
funding.
Yeah,
for
to save money for the
PBS.
PBS. Yeah. And he did it twice. That, and then he also wanted. There was a whole like movement to not allow recording of television on VHS.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, no, we need to do this so that parents can record it for the children, so children and parents can watch it together.
Cool guy.
But he was a great guy. And so yeah, after that all happens, he goes outside of the courthouse and he starts singing "This Land Is Your Land," and everyone sings along during the press conference outside the courthouse. And then we cut back to Dylan, who's now arriving at the mental institution.
So they're just showing like, hey man, you know who this guy was?
This is who he is, right?
Yeah.
This is who.
I mean, that would have been great for me. Because I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Why is he going to this guy in this hospital here?
Yes, that's Woody Guthrie. And
Okay.
so Dylan shows up. He's poor, so he can't pay the taxi driver that drove him there like the full amount, which also just goes to show like how hard up he is. And he arrives in the hospital where Woody is, and he hears a song, the song from the opening of the movie being played. And so he walks to that where the song is, finding Woody and Seeger sitting next to him playing the guitar for a bedridden Woody Guthrie. Woody Guthrie's like all hopped up on fucking drugs, barely able to speak, barely able to move, and Seeger's there just like watching after him. And we get to learn that like pretty much the only people that meet up with him now are like his family, like not a lot of other folk musicians or like other people like come to visit him. And so Woody's like, but Woody has like this business card that says like "I'm not dead yet" or something like that to just sort of he's got that rebellious spirit. And Woody wants to hear some music, so Bob ends up singing him a song about Woody, a song all about how important Woody Guthrie is, and Woody seems to really like it. So then Pete Seeger drives Bob back to eventually. Originally, I thought he was going to drive him to New York, but actually he's letting him stay with him and his family. We meet his wife and his kids there. They live sort of like in this like this house in the middle of the woods. I don't know if you end up seeing any of that.
Nope.
Okay. And while they're driving there, they're listening to the radio, and Bob mentions, he's like, I like everything. I like Cash. I like Little Richard. I like Buddy Holly. I like rock and roll. He's like, the only thing I don't really like is all that sort of like is like really saccharine music. And immediately we see like the divide, because he says this, and then Seeger's like, well, someone once told me that a good song can get the job done without any frills, sometimes without drums, without other instruments. All you need is a voice and a guitar and some words. And Bob's like, well, sometimes those instruments sound good too. Like clearly he's not as strict a folk musician as Seeger thinks he might be.
Yeah. I mean, that should be early warning signs. If
You'd
you're
think
like,
so.
If you're like, we gotta make sure to keep the folk music pure, which is fucking a weird thing to say. I don't know. Like, it's a weird. I don't know. This whole like genre purism.
Yeah.
It comes from the Newport Festival, and even just music today.
Yeah.
You know, with let's say for the biggest thing was Beyonce having a country album, and
Right.
country fans being like, "What the fuck?" You know,
I think
it's a similar thing.
kind of, but I think the reason behind their strictness is it's a purely like political statement.
Sure.
You know, I don't agree with it, but I sort of understand where they're coming from. But it does feel very restrictive and somewhat childish. But
that's the thing is I see where they're coming from, but I think they're being kind of, I don't know,
it's
babies about it.
Well, it's sort of the thing of like Mr. Rogers, right? Like, to bring it back to Mr. Rogers, where it's like he didn't like anything on television that wasn't the pure, honest truth for children. Any sort of cartoons, anything like that, and it's just like, well, I think you're being a little bit heavy-handed on like that sort of thing, you know. So it's that sort of like that purism. I understand where it comes from, and I understand like this is a whole like genre, but yeah, that purism is also something that's going to lead to a massive, you know, it's also going to keep, and this is something that is brought up later on as well, is like all those folk songs before Dylan starts writing his own music are just covers of old music, you know. It's all old, and it doesn't really reflect the times that they're living through, you know.
Right.
In the 60s, Dylan's the first one to put pen to paper and use the template of a folk song, but infusing it with like modern politics, like, you know, for like social change and stuff like that, which is why his music was so important at the time. Bob, later that night, or later the next morning, while staying at Seeger's house, is writing and singing to himself. And these sorts of things was like, I know this probably happened, but it really sort of feels like that. Wow.
So much navel gazing. And so much of him just being like,
yeah.
And probably fans are like, well, this baby's writing that song.
And they also have that thing where Seeger's seeing him do this, and he just watches in awe as he like picks at his guitar and plays this sort of music. And it's that sort of thing where it's like, wow, it's the Dewey Cox thing where it's like, wow, you've really put something important here, you know?
Yeah.
Which is like, it's a thing, yet it's really hard to escape. I've not seen a lot of particularly musician biopics that have been able to escape.
No, that's why it's a big joke trope.
Yes, exactly. So Seeger sings for the audience. He gets them to sing "The Lion Sleeps Tonight," so he gets them to sing like different parts of the chorus, and then he sings. It's pretty great. And Bob watches from the wings, watches how he's able to get everyone like all hyped up and singing and stuff. We then meet Joan Baez. She there's a guy from Columbia Records, Albert, who yes, he wants to sign her for the Columbia Records, but she's not interested. She has her own manager. She has her own thing going. She's not interested in any of that. And then he says this really creepy thing where he's like, you know, your depressed disposition, you're never smiling. That just drives men crazier. And I'm like, all right, so I don't like Albert. Got it. Good to know.
He's a weird guy.
Yeah. So then Bob watches Joan Baez perform. She's singing "House of the Rising Sun." Again, another like folk singing like cover, like it's not her own music. And then Seeger introduces Bob Dylan to the audience, and he goes on stage, and he immediately starts kind of like shitting on like Joan Baez. He immediately is like, "Hey man, that Baez, she sings pretty, a little too pretty if you ask me." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Mean?
Like, yeah, like you're like negging the performer that just came up.
There is kind of like the movie seems to be portraying there's kind of a bias towards women anyway in kind of the folk music scene where they're always like, it's just a man and his guitar, and then later on someone's like, or woman, right guys, right fellas,
right.
All men who are on the board here.
So Albert ends up seeing Bob Dylan sing, and he immediately signs him up for the signs him with Columbia Records. He gets him on there. He gets him a recording session, but he's only recording covers. He's not recording his own music currently. And then while traveling and touring, mostly to like churches and stuff like that, performing his music and also other like folk covers, he meets Sylvie, who's played by Elle Fanning. Dylan says that performers need to be like car crashes. People, you know, shouldn't be able to look away from them. You know, he says like you either need to be ugly or you need to be crazy or you need to be like there's got to be something to you, and that's what makes you big,
sure.
you know, and popular.
Not wrong.
And then they're going to like the Museum of Art where Guernica is, and Dylan's like, Picasso's overrated. Let's go watch a movie instead. So they go watch a movie.
That's new art. Yeah,
this is the new stuff. And so they go watch a movie instead, and then after the movie they're discussing it, and Elle Fanning's character is sort of like shitting on the movie and just like really sort of like painting it with a very like broad brush, broad strokes.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Dylan is being a bit more sort of like picky about it and going like, no, I don't think you understand what like is really being said here and that sort of thing.
You don't understand that folk music used to be just covers of old covers, and I'm trying to change it.
Yeah.
You don't understand that. That's what makes this movie so significant. Anyway, I'm going to go electric later on.
I'm going to go electric to be a big thing.
You keep watching.
Well, see, and this is actually a really great moment because he mentions he's kind of made it. Like he's making his own record, but none of the record has his own music on it. And he says, folk should stand the test of time like Shakespeare. And then Elle Fanning's like, yeah, but you're not singing Shakespeare. Like this isn't Shakespeare, And she also mentions it's like times are changing, things are different now, like where's the songs to like represent, the now that we're living in, because they're living through like a lot. They're living through like hopefully the ends of segregation, the civil rights movement, like, there's the Cuban Missile Crisis isn't too far away. Like there's all these things that are
I like that she could premonition that, like,
says,
I feel like it's gonna start coming.
She says the bombs are dropping. There's like, there's signage of like fallout shelters all over the place. So
end times.
Yeah, they're really living through like really stressful times. She's like, folk music does not represent this, it doesn't represent like the stuff we're actually living through. We also learned that she works at the Congress of Racial Equality. That's where she sort of helps out. So it's clear that she has a lot of, and Elle Fanning actually does a really good job of presenting this character who's like very driven, very motivated, and really can't like slow down. And like,
interesting.
Yeah.
Because for me, like when I see her, she's just some sad lady that's just always in the corner. I didn't know what she was doing. I couldn't pick that up. I imagine it was obviously the first half of the movie was supposed to set up her character more, or maybe she turns into that.
She's doing a lot in the beginning, but yeah, maybe later on. Because I think later on she starts to realize that there's as later on we discover this Joan Baez and Dylan became a couple, became sort of like an item, performing music together and clearly like found a lot of comfort with each other. And I think Elle Fanning's character is concerned about that. And concerned about what's going to end up happening between the two of them, which is probably why that happens. It does suck that I guess a lot of her power and stuff is sort of sidelined for that aspect of it. But
the movie's called The Complete Unknown, not Complete Unknown and his side thing.
Man, you were really upset about this movie, man. I'm loving this.
Well, it's just fine. I don't hate it. It's not for me. It's just
that's fair.
Like, it's not for me. I gave it a shot.
You did.
I don't think it has anything that really makes me go, oh shit. y'all are sleeping on this. This is really something. This is well made.
You wish you had been sleeping through it.
I wish I would have. Look me up for the songs, I guess, but I also could just go listen to the songs. Anyway.
Yeah. So we get a shot of Dylan in a record store. None of his records are selling, but Baez's records are all getting sold out, basically. Nice. This idea of like, he realizes like, he put out a record full of covers, no one's listening to it.
But then she put out a record full of covers?
Some covers, but some is stuff that she's also written.
Yeah, I think you'd have a good mix. I feel like it'd be like, I want to see a bunch of songs that I've heard before sung by some random person. I don't know.
This is also another thing that is like all about like the folk scene at the time, and it's a sort of interesting thing where like someone would write a song, and this is something that happens later on. It's like for instance, Dylan would write a song and not record it and not put it out, and then Baez would sing it and record it or perform it. And it would be like her song, kind of, even though he's the one that wrote it. And this is this thing of like, because it's like folk music, the idea is that it doesn't really belong to anybody.
Yeah.
But you know a Dylan song when you hear it because of his like poetry and the way he's the way he's doing with it. So now Bob Dylan and Sylvia are moving in together. Bob Dylan sings "Blowin' in the Wind" to a comatose Woody Guthrie, and Woody seems to really like it. He also is like smoking, even though he's like in his like facility, and there's a guy that works there.
Who's smoking?
Woody Guthrie.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's smoking a cigarette, and the guy running the facility is like, "You're not allowed to do this. There's a guy over in the room he's in a coma, and you guys, he needs his rest."
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm like that's kind of fair, but then Bob Dylan's like, "Hey, you fucking fascist, get the fuck out of here!
How dare you have these rules?"
Yeah, in a mental facility. I'm like, why not just move out of this room?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess I can't.
Yeah, probably not. So Bob Dylan and Sylvie throw a party. Some lady finds a collection of Bob's things, which is one, a collection of his like childhood photos and stuff, and another has his actual real name on it. His last name is not Dylan, it's Zimmerman. So already it's this idea that like no one really knows who Bob Dylan is. He hasn't told anyone his real name. He's never said that his name is Zimmerman to anyone in the movie up until now. And also it sounds like he's creating this idea that like he was, you know, he grew up like at a circus and was part of a car. Like he's basically lying about like a lot of his past, which explains also why when the movie opens, we don't actually see his childhood. We're really just seeing like the beginnings of Dylan and not.
Well, it's him as it's the birth of him as a character. It seems
yes,
like.
exactly.
A performer.
So Sylvie says that she's leaving for a school trip. She's going to be gone for like 2 weeks. Bob Dylan seems like upset about this. He's like, 2 weeks, you know, God made the world in 6 days and whatever. And,
okay.
And he's like, what are we supposed to do with all that time apart? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Doesn't seem like you even really want her around anyway. So yeah.
So you're saying there's not a lot of chemistry between the two. They're just kind of like,
yeah. All right, now our car is pulling up right in front of us.
Oh, it's pulling up right in front of us. The light's shining right in our face. Continue talking.
Anyway, so Sylvie is like leaving for the trip, and she says, she notes, it's like, I don't know anything about you, like, and he just seems like disinterested. He accuses her, she accuses him of like hiding who he is, hiding his past, not really opening up. She's like, I've told you everything about me. I've told you where I grew up. I told you about my first love. And he's like, yeah, I didn't want to know. I didn't ask you. You know, I didn't ask you about that. But it's like, yeah, but that's what you do when you're in a relationship with someone. You know, you share things about you.
But that's what you do with folk music. You always cover music. You don't write your own, right?
Yeah, it's all a creation.
It's all different things. So he's breaking all the rules of relationships, folk music, everything.
He's breaking he's not. Yeah, exactly. He's complete unknown.
Yeah.
So, well, Sylvie's gone. The news is terrifying. This idea.
Can't relate to that.
I know. Well, honestly, this is probably one of the most affecting scenes in the entire movie, because it's like everyone's watching TV and stressed about the current predicament, because it's like it is now, I believe it's the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's the thing of like might be a nuclear war with the rest of the world by the end of the night, and everyone's like nobody knows what to do. We get a shot of like Joan Baez, and she's like packing stuff up. She doesn't really know where to go. She's trying to get a taxi. No one's stopping for her. People are like running through the streets. Everyone's very stressed out. She's of course very stressed out, and then she hears Bob singing. He's singing in a club, and she goes down in the club and watches him sing, and he's just singing about war and bombs and
classic folk topics.
And this is one of his original songs. It's actually a really great song, and I can't remember the name of it. I'm so sad. I'm sorry, everyone.
No.
Oh God, it's
the Dylan heads are gonna come get you, dude.
Bob
They're gonna take you out.
Dylan
he's
war
Googling now.
Song.
I feel bad.
Masters of War.
Okay.
Masters of War. Yes, it's a great song, but it's also about the idea of that war is created and run by rich people. Like, it's like it's the old story about like
classic stuff.
Classic class.
That is folklore now, baby.
That's
never gonna change.
That's never gonna change. And but it's funny, and I don't know if this was done on purpose. I'm not sure, but when there are lines in the song about people who are rich and people who have money, and when he sings those lyrics, he's looking at Joan. And I'm like, is he trying to like make this thing of like she's rich and she makes a lot of money off of her music and he despises her for that? Or I don't know. It felt very strange, especially for this song about like, men in mansions who like propagate war and stuff. I don't know, but you know what, it works for her, because then after he's done with the song and leaves the bar, the two of them start making out.
Oh, nice.
And they go back to Sylvie's apartment that Bob lives with her in, and they fuck.
Wow.
And she wakes up the next day.
She's like, who's this person? Oh wait, they're gone.
She's
on vacation.
Gone.
What am I gonna do in 2 weeks? Guess I'll cheat.
Because I'll cheat on you. And so she ends up spending the night with them, and the next morning they get up, and it's this thing of like they thought they basically wake up to like nuclear holocaust. They didn't think that they'd wake up the next morning with everything perfectly fine. So when Joan Baez wakes up and like looks out the window, she sees that everything is returned to normal, and she turns on the TV, and it's like no one will know how close we were to the brink of destruction, and everything seems perfectly like, hunky-dory now. And then Bob like sees the news story, and he's like, well, that's that, and he just turns off the TV. Which it's a good double meaning, because it's like, well, like everything worked out okay, not a big deal, but it's also this thing of like, well, that's that, like now me and Joan are connected now,
Yep.
as
I guess I have
people.
to live with these consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite the fact that I thought we were all going to die tonight.
So now Joan wants to know a bit more about who he is and asks questions.
He's like, I didn't ask you any of this.
And he starts to lie. He tells the same lie over and over again. She immediately calls him out. She's like, "You're bullshitting me. Like you're completely lying to me." And then she's like looking through like his lyrics, like his handwriting and stuff, and finds lyrics to "Blowin' in the Wind," one of the other big Dylan songs. She's like, "Hey, can you sing this for me?" And he sings it, and then she starts to harmonize. And again, I'm like, the actor who's playing her is doing such a good job. Like, because Joan Baez has a very particular, specific voice, and it's very, it must be very difficult to capture. And she's done a very good job of doing it.
Yeah.
And I had to look it up. I'm like, is this actually the actor? And it is.
That's
it really
crazy.
is. I know. So
I would have never guessed that. I was like, this lip syncing is crazy.
It's way better. Yeah, it's way good. So yeah, Dylan is singing, and then Joan Baez harmonizes. Both of them are like on the bed together singing and playing the guitar. And he's like, what is it? He doesn't know what this is. Oh yeah, she's like, so what is this? Like, what are we doing here?
A relationship. Yeah.
Yes. He's like, I don't know what this is. And then she says that she would like to sing the song since he hasn't recorded it yet. So basically he gives her this song to sing. And so she starts singing it like live and performing it and stuff like that. It's hers basically. Then Sylvia arrives. This is a couple days later. Bob Dylan has bought her flowers, and Sylvia's like, "Oh, you learned how to make coffee," which he didn't know how to make coffee before. He still doesn't know how to make coffee. Joan made the coffee, and that's how like recent all this has happened from Sylvia arriving back home. So, so then we hear so Bob Dylan sings "Don't Think Twice" in a recording studio, and this is one of the other cringy bits. He's singing the song, and the camera like moves from him in the recording studio over to one of the recording engineers. The recording engineer goes like, "Who wrote this?"
No.
Yeah, and then the guy from Columbia Records goes like, "He did." It's like, come on, guys.
Yep. Gotta have one of those in the movie.
Gotta have that. So, and then Joan Baez is also singing it. So both of them are singing it. She's singing it live. He's singing in the recording studio, but his record hasn't come out yet. And her version, which is being recorded live, ends up going like viral, like on the radio, basically. And Sylvia hears it and is like, "Did you give this song to her? Because you haven't put it out yet." And Bob Dylan's just sort of like, "Well, I didn't really like, it's Columbia Records thinks it's a good idea because, if she puts it out, then when I put it out, people are going to recognize it." And Sylvie's very suspicious about this whole thing. Like she's not sure about any of this, basically. Also, she's worried because Bob Dylan is planning on going to a festival, which is being headlined by Joan Baez.
Okay.
They're not going to, and Sylvie's not going to be going with him. So, yeah. What happens next? So then Dylan does arrive, walks through Joan Baez's house, and he's playing on his guitar "House of the Rising Sun," which is the first song that he heard her singing. And then they embrace, and it's very clear they probably fuck. And then he performs there. They perform together, and then suddenly Bob Dylan's the next big thing. He goes to pick up some fan letters, and it's like a bunch of fan letters, and he's gotten a ton of money, and he has a letter from Johnny Cash, and the two of them write back and forth to each other.
Pen pals.
They're pen pals, that's right. And Johnny Cash says Dylan's new record is his prized possession. And Bob Dylan's chased into a taxi by fans. He's now become famous, and he writes to Johnny Cash. He's like, "I'm famous by the rules of the public." He says, he's like, "They snuck up and they pulverized me."
Okay.
And then and this is the thing I knew was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen, and I cringed the moment I saw it. We get a shot because this was a real historical event during the march in Washington D.C. That was headed by MLK. Dylan performed at that thing, and so they have a shot of that thing, but they CG in Timothy Chalamet into the old historical footage, and it looks so bad. And like, I don't know.
I
maybe
think they're gonna CG. They're gonna film it and they're gonna CG in Martin Luther King.
Oh, luckily no.
Okay.
No, luckily they didn't do that. They don't show him. But
it's probably a lot harder to do that.
That would be much more
like
difficult.
they're like, here's a poor 3D artist trying to make a recreation of MLK.
Who knows if like King's like family would have even allowed that
Probably
too.
not.
You know?
It's probably a lot easier just be like, throw some weird historical footage that no one can change.
And then put him in there. It's weird. I'm not 100% sure. I was taking notes. So I wasn't paying super close attention, but it seems as if they are using like historical like television footage of like Johnny Cash and stuff, like, which is weird because there is an actor playing Johnny Cash, but I think they are using actual like footage of Cash on television.
There wasn't a whole lot of archival footage for me. It was just that one show I mentioned,
right? Which is obviously
Pete's show.
Yeah,
but it did seem. I mean, that was like clearly Edward Norton. I don't think it was anyone else because I think the way they were shooting it was like live and stuff was happening.
Fair. So yeah, he's gotten famous. He performs at the march, and then him and Cash write letters back and forth, and it seems like they're getting really comfy. And then that's the end of my half.
Wait, so they're already at the festival, right?
The festival's already happened.
Okay, or happening.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like I think the festival already happened. Maybe he's like touring with her. I don't know, but it seems.
I mean, the festival's happening now. When I walk in after saying hello, good friend, and going in there.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're right. The festival didn't happen yet. Well, it's going to happen.
Got it. Okay.
So. Ed Norton's getting some news. I don't know what he's got, but then JFK gets assassinated right when I get in. I'm like, oh man. Future episodes, you'll listen.
Yeah, you'll know.
There's a lot of JFK ahead.
Yep.
Ahead? No actor. No actor though.
No, yeah.
None of our favorite actors. You'll hear about.
Yeah,
later.
we'll hear all about them.
But everyone's sad, and then some lady singing about why things are sad. 1964. This is
so awesome.
Yeah, because I'm just like,
you don't know who this lady is.
But it's oh my god, it's Joan, right?
Oh, it's Joan, probably. She's the one with the long dark hair.
Yeah. No, I know her later, but like at this point, I'm like, some lady singing about how things bad are. 1964, Newport.
Yeah.
Dylan's just watching other people. He's so mysterious and moody. He's just watching everyone like, yeah, and then they're like, surprise appearance by Johnny Cash. And Johnny Cash goes out there. He's like, hey, my pen pal, Bob Dylan's here. I'm going to introduce him. He sings a Folsom blues.
Yeah. How good does this Cash look? I've only seen him once in my half of the movie.
He's solid. Wait a second. Didn't so James Mangold, he also did Walk the Line?
I'm pretty sure he did.
That's crazy to be like, all right, we're making another Johnny Cash. like bringing Johnny Cash back.
Apparently the guy who played Johnny Cash in this movie was like, I don't want to do it. Like, we've already had a perfect performance of him. I don't feel like I'm going to do a good enough job.
They couldn't bring Joaquin Phoenix back. He's played Johnny Cash, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
So, yeah, they couldn't bring him back. He's too old and crazy.
He's way too old and crazy.
He's too crazy now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he has
it's exactly the same director.
That's a wild choice.
He must have clearly he has a style of music that he really likes.
Seriously, he really likes Cicera.
Yeah.
So he goes before Bob Dylan. Actually, Johnny Cash is like a special appearance, and then introduces Bob Dylan. Everyone freaks out, and then he's like, "Here's a new song, everyone." And then he sings the fucking Watchmen song. You know, the song beginning of Watchmen.
All along the Watchtower.
No, the other one.
Times They Are Changing?
Times Are Changing. You know, the classic one. From the classic movie Watchmen.
From the opening of Watchmen.
Zack Snyder's Watchmen.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Did you feel it? Did you feel the little butterflies in your belly and the tingling in your skin and the...
Is that what people are supposed to feel when they hear that song? No, I like that song. That's probably like the song I know most about Bob Dylan. I'm sure most
you've seen Watchmen.
Because I've seen Watchmen a few times, yeah. So, but people are immediately like hype, and I'm like, people are immediately hyped for like new music? That's crazy. Especially at a folk festival where people are expecting like covers and shit.
Yeah.
They see a new song that they've never heard before. Like, how many times you go to a
concert?
A concert and they're like, we're gonna introduce a new song, and you're like, all right. I mean, that's cool. I get to hear it, but like, all right.
Yeah, it's like when you go see an artist that you like and they're like, here's a brand new song no one's heard, and a lot of times people are like, I don't know if I want to hear that.
I don't know. I kind of am here for the hits, you know. I'm kind of here for things I want.
Yeah.
Maybe not the song that you're going to play once and then I'm never going to hear again because no one really liked it. Anyway, so then, you know, we see Pete. He's happy. Everyone's like pretty happy with the song. Everyone's like, this is a banger. He gets a standing ovation.
It's a banger.
Sylvia is in the background, and she's fucking sad. I don't know what her problem is.
I think her problem is I think she's feeling like he's
getting too popular, too big for his britches, I guess.
Exactly.
But she doesn't seem super happy. She's sitting out there with her friend. Anyway, it's 1965.
Kind of a thankless role to play at this part of the film, really.
Yeah, she doesn't. She's in it very little at this point.
Yeah.
1965, his song is playing around. He's walking around New York City. He's a badass dude. He's just like
wearing sunglasses.
He's wearing sunglasses at night.
Yeah.
He walks up to like a little like stall, and he gets a little whistle thing that like sounds like a police siren. He's like, "That's sick." And the guy's like, "Do you have kids?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got 10,000 of them. And then he hops on his motorcycle and drives off. I'm like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
Such ego.
I know.
But he doesn't care about it.
No.
Bob Dylan's manager is here. He's like hoping to play for like a good cause, a bunch of rich people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all like, listen, Bob, you don't have to compete with the Beatles. We're just happy you're doing really good. And he's like, oh, it's about the Beatles. It was about them.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's hoping like at this like fundraiser thing for a good cause. I don't even know what the good cause is. I don't think it was ever mentioned. But they're hoping that, Bob Dylan's going to play a song and Pete's there and he's like, hey, what's going on? Hey, I was like, I didn't bring any instruments. Like, hey, you can borrow mine. He's like, all right, I'll use your guitar. And he uses his guitar and he plays. And then Pete joins him in for another song and everyone's really happy. And then he leaves and he like laments. By the way, this is a jump in the future, right? So Sylvie's no longer there. He's with a new lady.
Oh, so Sylvie's completely out of the movie at this point?
She's out of the picture.
Okay.
At least for now.
Got it.
Who's
a new lady? Just a lady?
Just some lady is there. She's literally in the scene and disappears.
Okay.
And he's like, so I wish they would let me, like they're always so demanding, want me to play. Why don't they just let me be? Let me do what I want to do. And then some random guy in the elevator is like, what do you mean let you be and do what? He's like, well, I want to be myself, I think. And he's like, well, I'm pretty good at like helping with that sort of stuff. Like, I'm here to take a weight off you. And he's like, I got 100 pounds. And he's like,
I got 1,000 kids.
Yeah. And he's like, well, how do you sing with 100 pounds? And he's like, well, when I sing, I go somewhere else. And then he like gets off the elevator. I'm like, that's a weird scene. And like Becca's there, which is the lady's name. I wrote it down. I found out.
Okay, Becca's
there, and she's like just in the background, like really not saying anything. She's introduced like one person this whole party, and then it's like, hey, they leave, they part ways. But that random guy in the elevator is like, he's like, hey, who are you? And he's like, I'm Bobby Newirth, just like you. I'm gonna go sing somewhere else. And then Becca's like, oh, where are you going? As Bob Dylan walks off, he's like, what do you mean? Where am I going? He's like, I love you. And he's like, that's weird. We just met. That's kind of strange. Yeah. And then he just leaves and goes and finds Bobby Newirth playing underground. And someone recognizes Bob Dylan. And it's like, it's Bob Dylan. Take your glasses off. I want to see your face. And like the whole bar stops like in the middle of the performance. And I guess like because this lady was so obsessed with him, her boyfriend or something got mad and punched Bob Dylan in the face.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
Damn, dog.
And he like gets up and he goes somewhere else. Like I think other Bob saves him and is like, all right, we got to get you out of here because apparently you're causing a huge ruckus. I just thought it'd be cool, like watch you play. I guess
it's a real hullabaloo.
Really hullabaloo.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Sylvie's house, and she's like opens the door, and just in case you couldn't tell what happened, probably a lot of the audience was like, what happened to Sylvie? Why is she not with him?
Yeah, why is she not there?
And so she says, it's 4 a.m. We broke up.
So now I know the time and the reason for
really a good establishing shot for me.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, well, can you get me like, I'm sorry, but like, can you get like a compress or something for this?
Yeah.
And he's always, and then he like while sitting there nursing his eye, he's like, they always ask where my songs come from, and they just come from here. She's like, okay. And then
the audience is like, yes, I understand.
I understand. Yeah, this come from me. Yeah. And Sylvie's like, okay. And then from the other room, someone says like, hey, Sylvie, who's that?
It's a guy.
It's a guy.
A man.
And Bob Dylan looks like, and then just leaves.
Ethan made an angry face.
Yeah. He's just kind of perturbed, like, I probably butchered that quote. I'm sure it was more insightful, but
eloquent.
But I was just like,
maybe not though.
I was like, okay, they broke up. Now he's hanging out at her place, and then I lost the quote, so I apologize, everyone. And then he kind of gets in a little tizzy. He's like, I want to write new music. I'm tired of this shit. I got to make a big change because my ex-girlfriend doesn't seem to care about me anymore, I guess. And he's like, I want telling the producers, like, I want a young person with hair on their heads. I don't want to hear only old people. I want to start getting new people. He's like, I don't know if I can do that at such short notice. He's like, that's a bad excuse. Tell me about it. And he hangs up on him.
Right.
And some of the producer, like, they start like rehearsing in the studio, and some producers are like, "This is gonna piss some people off," and people are walking around with these electric guitars and stuff.
Uh-oh, that's not very.
I know. Some dudes are walking around talking to each other, and then some people. Oh, so basically at the Newport Planning Film Festival, they're getting word that like Bob Dylan's gonna make some crazy stuff with like electricity, and they're like, "Oh my God, we can't have him do that. This is folk music for folk people."
Right. People. Folks.
We created this. Some people are like, we created this festival to combat all that fake stuff out there, all that fake music out there. That sucks.
Right.
We want the sound of a guitar and a man's voice or a woman's. And so he starts playing, cut the Bob Dylan. He goes back in the studio. He's like, I'm going to play Highway 61. He gets a little siren whistle and goes, and then starts playing the song because that's what's in the song. And then we got some old people. Man, my notes are getting rough. They're getting rough.
Yeah, Ethan had no time to.
I had no time.
This.
Usually I go back and edit my notes, but I didn't really have a lot of time.
We literally walked out of the theater, walked into the car,
and
set
was
up
like
everything.
ready to go. Okay,
Yeah.
so basically we're at Pete's. He has his own little show that I was mentioning, and they're recording, but Bob Dylan's late. He's not running in, so they got Jesse Moffett, I believe is his name. Let me make sure I got it right. Wow, they did not put this in the wiki.
Oh, I'll look it up on
sounds
there.
like racism because he's like the only black guy in this whole movie.
Son of a bitch.
I'll
look it up. I'll look
it up.
Cast.
I'm pretty sure it's Jesse Moffett.
Okay.
I could be saying that wrong, and I apologize because I mentioned it once, and then I was like, all
yep,
right,
Jesse Moffett.
Cool, great. I did better than you, Wikipedia, today.
This is why we shouldn't be funding them.
Yeah, the real reason.
Yeah.
Just too woke, dude.
Too woke.
Don't
man. Like how woke Wikipedia is.
Don't
just giving me a list of facts.
Just giving me a list of facts and sometimes omitting people from the facts.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, all right, well, I'm going to talk to you, Jesse Moffett, because you're like a blues musician. Like, how's it going here? Bob Dylan's not here, but we got to talk to you. Like, how are you doing? What kind of music do you play? He's like, I play the blues. I play whatever I want. And he's got like a bottle and he's drinking. He's like, you want to drink some?
Hell yeah.
And he's like, no, this is a PBS show. He's like, oh, I didn't really understand that. Okay. It's an education show. Oh, I could educate anyone. I could come to your house and teach you the blues. Here's my number. Da, 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 da. And you could tell that like Pete's a little uncomfortable. And then Bob Dylan walks in late. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to cause anything. I just want to show up.
Sure.
And Jesse's like, yeah, go to your house. Just bring me a bottle of anything. It's great. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a weird portrayal of this guy. But he's just like, how do we make the most alcoholic sounding dude?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, what kind of music do you play? He's like, all right, listen to this. And he plays like the sick blues riff and starts singing and everything. And Bob Dylan's like, this is fascinating. And then he ends the song. And Pete's like, oh, Bob Dylan's actually here. I know you always wanted to see him. So you can come here. And he's like, Jesse's like, you're trying to steal my spot, Mr. Dylan? He's like, no, I was just interested in your music. I got these glasses that can see right into your soul, and I can read everything you're trying to do. He's like, is that so, huh? All right, why don't you take my guitar? And he's like, no, that's like trying to take your woman. He's like, it's okay, I gave you permission. Just don't grab her too hard or anything. And Pete on the other hand's like, this is a family show. I don't know what we're doing here. It's like a PBS. Anyway, so they all, Bob Dylan starts playing, and then Jesse starts playing, and then even Pete starts playing. They do a cool little thing. I'm sure this is some video footage somewhere, and everyone's like, this is the best video footage ever I've ever seen, a cool collaboration. That's why it exists. And I'm like, but besides that, not 100% sure what this reason of the scene exists to be here.
Yeah, did like anything meaningful happen with like Dylan's like
Dylan
learn anything?
Came through.
Yeah.
I guess. I really don't. I really don't see the purpose of why this is in there, except to be like, that's a cool moment.
Yeah. Well, sounds pretty cool.
Because it was filmed, right? Like, I bet it was probably more important because people could remember it because it was filmed, right?
Right.
But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
He gets dropped off somewhere, and he starts knocking on random doors, and he's like, oh, shit, I don't know where it is. And then it turns out Joan opens up one of the doors, and he's like, what, you want to catch up with me? He's like, yeah, because I guess they're booked to be on tour together.
Right.
And then they smash. And she's trying to fucking sleep, and he's over in the corner with his car going, and she turns on the light and is like, Bob. He's like, what? And keeps playing. And he's like, never mind. And then she eventually gets annoyed and like goes to the bathroom and comes back.
Is he in the room with her doing
He's in the room, yes, with like right next to her bed. doing
This is at her house, right?
This is at her house.
Like, he could go to another room and do this.
I mean, I don't know if her room. I think it might be a studio, so I don't know if there's another room.
Okay.
Because I thought the same thing, and I saw the rest of her place. I'm like, this kind of looks like a small studio apartment.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Which is crazy because it feels like everyone's like doing gangbusters, and they're still like, I live in a studio. It's like, can you get like a 1-bedroom? Like, I know New York's expensive, but like,
yeah. But they gotta live like that, you know. They gotta live that lifestyle.
Yes, or they're phonies.
Yeah. If they go electric, or if they buy more than 1-bedroom place, they're phonies.
They're fucking selling out.
Yeah.
Imagine that's what you're selling out is like. It's like, I want to be somewhat comfortable.
No.
Okay. I want to have a place for me to play my guitar and another place to sleep. Get out of here. You play and sleep in the same room.
Yeah.
You fucking sit in prison and make music. Anyway, she's annoyed. She comes out. She's like, why'd you even come here?
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, I don't know. I came here. He's like, you're acting like a jerk. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's funny. I'm just playing my guitar. He's
I'm
like, no,
funny.
seriously. Get out of here.
Ooh.
He's like, we were booked to play music together. We should sing songs together. And then he leaves. And I'm like, clearly they got some issues, I guess.
Yeah, that they're not gonna get resolved.
They're not going to get resolved. And then the next scene, which is very funny, it cuts to them playing guitar on the tour. And they play Blow in the Wind. They want to play Blow in the Wind, but he's like, no, I don't want to play that. That's boring. We played that before. Everyone knows that song. People want to hear new music. And everyone's like, no, we don't. She's like, you want to hear this song, right? You all came for this. And there's a producer in the back of whatever they're playing at. And he's like, what's going on with all this? And then Bob Dylan's like, oh, you guys, there should be no reason. There's no expectations for this. Someone gave out the set list or something?
Yeah.
Did that draconian man, executive in the corner, give out the set list? That guy's like, what the fuck?
I'm not draconian.
Oh, I can't believe I'm a bad person. He's all upset. I'm pretty sure it's Al.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, well, we're going to play this other song, but everyone's booing. And Joan's like, okay, well, I'm gonna play this. And he's like, I can't play it because my guitar is broken. It was broken since I got here. And she's like, well, I hope you can get it fixed. And then she starts playing. He just leaves, and I'm like, all right, very, very cool guy.
Yeah.
Bob Newworth is here. He's using Bob's guitar to record something. Yeah, there's a whole scene of him like arriving in this taxi cab, grabbing his like guitar and another guitar he got imported from Bob from London or something. He goes in the recording studio, and this guy's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm here to record a song. And he's like, all right, whose guitar is that? It's like, it's Bob Dylan's, just in case you didn't understand, audience. And then he starts playing, and then how to like fucking Batman appearing, Bob Dylan like appears out of the background playing a harmonica in the middle of the song. And they sing a song together, and I'm like, all right, cool.
Vengeance.
Yeah. He comes literally out of nowhere. I was like not expecting him. I was like, why are we not? Why
Bob Dylan jump scare.
Yeah, why isn't Bob in the scene?
Yeah,
and then he's like,
I am here. And he.
I am the song. I am the sad.
I am Dylan.
Al Cooper is here. I guess he's an important person. He's a big guitarist, I think.
Okay.
And but he stops by and he's like,
Alice Cooper is what you said?
It's Al Cooper, which is not
Alice
Alice Cooper?
Cooper.
I'm pretty sure that's probably where Alice Cooper got his name from. But Al Cooper is here, and he's like, I would play guitar. And he's like, well, we already got a great guitars. Like, what do you want? Says Dylan. Like, you want to play something? Get out of here. And he's like, and he goes to the producer. He's like, well, I want to play it. He's like, we need a pianist. He's like, all right. So he just gets on the piano and starts playing like the organ of the Rolling Stone, like a Rolling Stone song.
Oh, nice.
Is that the name of the song? I don't know the actual name of the
like
song.
Rolling Stone.
Like Rolling Stone, yeah. He starts playing the song for that. They're recording that. And let's see. One of the Newport guys is here. Oh yeah, Pete is here, and he's like, "Hey, I want to know what the set's gonna be. You know, we just want to know what your set's gonna be for Newport."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Finally, I have a plot going on here." So he goes and gets on a motorcycle. He's being cagey, by the way. He does not tell.
Of course, he doesn't want anyone to know.
He goes to Sylvie's place on a motorcycle and yells at her to come downstairs and go to Newport with him, and she's like, she looks kind of annoyed, and he's like, okay, I'll go. So she gets on the motorcycle, and they go all the way to Newport in Rhode Island, and he parks his motorcycle outside. They see some people they recognize, some other musicians from earlier. They arrive at the hotel. The vibes are immaculate. She's like, oh, the bed's pretty good. And he's like, it smells weird in here. And he gives her a cigarette. And she's like, does this make me Betty Davis? And he says, no, No.
I believe Betty Davis was in the movie that they saw earlier. That's why she's referencing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's like, she ended
That's
up
on their first date. Yeah.
and then she's like, I ended up broken up with that movie. And she's like, yeah, but then they met again when they were older.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I wonder if that happened in real life or they met again.
I don't
older.
think that's what happened. No.
Probably not. Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah.
He picks the acoustic guitar for what he's gonna play today because I guess he's gonna have like a little like brief appearance. I think. Let's see. Joan is singing again. And she's watching it, and he goes up to sing with her for whatever reason, probably because they have a song together. And he sings, and he brings Sylvie to watch, and Sylvie's just kind of crying the whole time because, like, she's like, Joan says, I picked an appropriate song, you better shut the fuck up and sing, and then, like, they sing together. And Sylvie's upset because the song's basically, like, all about, like, it's not me you're looking for is the main lyric.
Yeah.
And so clearly she's upset by like the chemistry they have together still. It's not gone.
Right.
And then she just like runs off. And other Bob is like, hey, where are you going? He's going to ask. And she's like, I just can't do it. So I have to leave. And then, so then as soon as the next, like he gets back to the hotel, he's like, where'd Sylvie go? And Bob's like, oh, she left. I told her to take the ferry. She might have time to catch her or whatever. Cause she was originally going to take a taxi. And I'm like, that's a long drive. On an island, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
You can't get off the island. So, she had to take the ferry and she goes up and we see Bob Dylan go up to meet her. By the way, before he leaves to go talk to her, the executives come out and they're like, what are you going to play, Bob? What are you going to play? What are you going to play?
What is he going to play?
New song or old song? It's like, are you not going to play this? He's listening to the Kinks.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, you're not going to play something crazy like this. We need old songs. He's like, I don't know. Why don't you play me some old songs? And he walks off. And he goes to try to find Sylvia at the ferry. She's about to get in. And he's like, hey, come here. Stay here. Stay with me. I want to see my set. She's like, I'm going home. And she says, it's fun being on this train with you, but I gotta step off.
He's like, that's a good idea for a song.
That's a good song, yeah. She says, I feel like a plate on that guy on the Ed Sullivan Show who spins the plates. And he's like, I kind of like that guy. She's like, I'm sure it's fun to be the guy, but I'm the plate. It's like, were you fucking listening?
No.
No. I was thinking of my next song.
I was thinking about a plate spinning guy.
You don't make 65 albums without thinking about music all the time. He gives her a cigarette and is like, smoke it. And she smokes a little bit and she's like, okay, I'm going to leave. And then she says, don't ask for the moon. We have the stars. And she leaves. And he's like, that's not good doing. Fucking Pete comes by and wakes everyone up the next day and he's like, get up. Everyone get up after partying. And, Pete's like, all right, I got to give you a little anecdote here, Bob Dylan. And Al's in the bed being like, what the fuck? We don't need no fucking anecdote. Let him do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Pete's like, all right, here's my story about a seesaw. Now, we have a seesaw, right? On one side, there is a bucket full of rocks, right? Full of rocks in the bucket. And on the other side, there's a bunch of sand that has like a hole in the bottom and it's leaking out sand. And we all have little teaspoons. And we're trying to put teaspoons in to the sand bucket to try to like even it out. We're trying to make a big shift here. It seems like it's so hard, but we have to keep working on it. And as more and more people come together with teaspoons, like we're getting the teaspoons and putting them in to the bucket, the sand bucket, and eventually it'll level it out. And man, when you came, it was like came to Newport. It was like you brought a freaking shovel. Like everyone was so excited for the change.
Yeah.
The whole thing's gonna zoop and level out. We really just need you to show up one more time with that shovel, and really just we're fighting for peace and change. And everyone else in the back's like, okay, that's a cool metaphor, but like we've been doing this for a while and the world's getting worse. Like everything sucks.
Yeah.
None of this is helping. Well, how is this one song going to change it if we're just going to keep it the same? We have to change what we're doing, change our strategy.
Right.
And we still don't know what Bob Dylan's going to do, but everyone else is like, fuck that, that's stupid. And he says, did you listen to the record I sent you? And Pete's like, yeah, it is. I listened to it. And he's like, you didn't listen to it. You didn't actually listen to it. He's like, oh, I got the gist from the last record. Like, I think I see where you're going.
The last record.
Yeah. And he's like,
you didn't even listen to the
and
new
everyone's
record?
like, you guys, you're Pete, you're scared that he's going to change everyone's minds because you're pushing candles and he's a light bulb. And so Bob Dylan leaves kind of in a huff, and he can't leave because his little motorcycle's blocked in.
Right.
And Johnny Cash appears. And he's fucking wasted. And he's just like, oh, am I blocking you in? Oh, shit. I gotta play here again today. I mean, and my girl already took off, and I just couldn't sleep, so I parked here after driving around for a bit, and I'm gonna move it for you. And he gets out, he fucking slams into 2 other cars. He gets his car out just enough so he could get his motorcycle out.
Yeah.
And he's like, Bob's like, not for the first time ever. It feels like Bob is asking someone else what to do instead of just being a weird little enigma guy. He's like, I'm not sure they want to hear what I want to play, Johnny. And Johnny just says, fuck them. I don't want to hear it.
What a bro.
What a bro. Fuck him. I wish there was a movie about that guy.
Yeah.
He seems like in the few scenes I've seen him, like, that guy seems like a fun time. A movie about that guy. Seems cool.
That's awesome.
So he's like, all right. So they got night, they're getting ready to go on. He's got the whole band there. There's a song with these dudes using, like, he goes up before a band that's playing with fucking sledgehammers to make the audio, and I'm like, that shit sounds cool.
That sounds awesome.
Rhythm. Yeah.
That's the beginning of metal.
Yeah. Pretty much. That would blow their mind. That would be so upset. Everyone's very excited for Bob Dylan to come out, but he comes out with a whole electric guitar. And this whole time, everyone's like, oh, she's going to do it. Fuck. And the whole band's up there, and they start playing with some sick shredding, and the audience is all upset. They're like, what the fuck? Shaking their heads. Everyone in the, planning the whole thing, shaking their heads.
Yeah.
Some people are kind of happy he's playing electrical shit, mostly Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. This is cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, the bearded guy you're talking about, I don't even remember his name because he just keeps coming around. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's like, turn down that music. You got to go turn down the music. And he goes to turn down the music, but other Bobby comes out and is like, no, you can't turn down the music. Don't turn it down. And he tells the producer not to turn it down. And they get into a fucking fight, and they like break out through like a I don't know. They tear down a fence and fall down.
Right.
All to the side. People start throwing shit at the stage. Now Pete is like, the first song's over, and they're like, okay, maybe we'll do another song. And he starts playing another song that's like all rowdy and electric. And they're like, okay, Pete's like, all right, I gotta turn it down. And then his wife is actually like, no. By the way, his wife's been in the whole movie and says like nothing.
Yeah, she says nothing.
She says
the entire
absolutely
movie.
nothing.
Yeah.
She has a Wikipedia entry. Oh my god, what's her name? Toshi.
Yeah.
But she says nothing. But this is the first time she's like, no, don't turn it down. He's like, all right, fine, I won't turn it down. And then people start yelling at Bob Dylan, saying like, "You're Judas!"
Yeah, that was a famous quote.
You're Judas!
Calling him Judas, and then he says, "You're a liar!"
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he plays a song.
Does he say, play it fucking louder or something like that?
He says, fuck these guys, and just starts playing it. I think he might say that, yeah.
That's another famous quote from that time, yeah.
And then he starts getting stuff thrown at him. He plays the Rolling Stones song. And he's like, fuck this place, let's leave. They only played 3 songs, even though it's supposed to be the headline the last night.
Right.
And they leave, and they're like, no, you gotta stop. Pete's like, you gotta play it one more. You gotta play one more song, man. And even Johnny Cash is like, come on, man. He brings out his acoustic and gives him it. He's like, all right, fine, I'll play one more song.
Yeah.
And then they sing the song, and he sings the song. Oh, I don't remember what song. I didn't recognize this one.
Okay,
unfortunately.
That's fine.
Let me see if the Wikipedia has it. Nope.
That's fine.
It says he relents, he does it, and then the next day he sees Pete tearing down the whole thing, and Pete sees him drive away on his motorcycle, and I'm like, okay, cool. The festival's over. Pete arrives at the hotel. Sees all Pete arrives at the hotel when it's nighttime, and Bob Dylan doesn't seem to be having any fun. Seems like he just stays awake the whole night because it's not morning time. People are asleep, and he's just sitting there still. And Joan sees him while he's leaving, and she says, "Why you won? Why don't you just give up on all this?"
Right.
He says, "What did I win?" She says, "Freedom from all of us and our shit. Isn't that what you want?"
Yeah.
And he's just like. Then he leaves, sees the festival being torn down, leaves and then goes to this guy in a wheelchair, who I'm just the first time I've seen him.
Oh no.
He has the song that you're playing. What was at the beginning? The one that was the song at the very, very beginning.
The first song that we hear at the beginning of the movie.
Where he's like, "It's nice to know you."
Yeah, it's been good to know you.
It's been good to know you, which seems like this is the last time he's going to see him. And he basically doesn't really seem to have any expression, but he gives him the police siren whistle.
That's awesome.
And he looks at him, sings a song a little bit, his song, and then leaves. and then that's the end of the movie.
It's kind of crazy, like this change in this guy over the course of like 4 years, you know, like so intensely massive, you know. It's just like I always kind of dig when movies open and close at the same, like around the same like space, and then you can see like how much has changed in between like the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie.
Yeah,
you know? It's interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
So the movie ends with a bunch of facts about him.
It ends with the facts. Like after this Newport, he released Highway 61 Revisited, which became one of the most influential albums of all time.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know, since he kept writing about 65 albums, only songwriter to win a Nobel Peace Prize for Literature, and then he didn't attend the ceremony.
What a badass.
What a badass.
What is this? Does Rolling Stone play at the very, like during the credits at all?
Yeah.
I imagine it must, right?
Yeah, it does.
Do they show footage or pictures of?
They don't show jack shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. I feel like I like that ending a lot more now I know the context to it.
That's how it always goes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Like,
yeah.
When I came out of this movie, I was like, it's not great, but
yeah.
But now I'm like, it's okay.
It's just fine. And that seems to be, like, even our friend Sam, who is a massive, you know, Bob Dylan fan who's seen this movie, like, twice. Whenever we talk to him about it, he's like, it's just kind of meh. Like, it's good, you know? Like, it's not bad. It's definitely not bad, but it's also not like really impactful.
It's a serviceable biopic, you know, and I think it would have been much better if he was a monkey. I think that would have improved it drastically. Can you imagine him going up there as a monkey, playing a song, getting a bunch of people booing at him, throwing stuff at him?
Fucking bananas would it be if like Dylan was like, I'm gonna make a movie about me as a monkey, and like these two completely different musicians came up with the same idea, like
hilarious.
Completely like separate from each other, like Robbie Williams and like Dylan both have movies with the same concept somehow.
I mean, the thing is I like it when a movie, like, I'm more interested in seeing that movie.
Yeah, it takes a swing.
Because I'm just, it takes a big swing. Off of Vine.
Out of Vine.
Yeah. Or even the weird, was it the Pharrell Williams movie that's going to be like
the Lego, brick by brick?
Brick by brick. It's going to complete it in Legos. I'm like, you got to come up with some. I think they realize that, like, fucking biopics are all going to be kind of the same. They're all going to kind of hit the same notes. You know, people's journey to fame is all pretty similar in some way. You get, like, a lightning moment that's, like, lucky, and it's, like, can that sustain a whole movie? Yeah. Well, let's do something weird, like, make it weird, or like, even, like, Rocket Man, like, did a whole bunch of, like, interesting stuff with kind of its way of portraying Elton John. Like, it did a lot of expansive things, I felt.
Which ones get nominated for Best Picture?
All of them, actually.
Rocket Man didn't.
I thought Rocket Man got nominated, did it not?
No, did we have to watch it for the podcast?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Right, it didn't.
Yeah, and Better Man definitely didn't either.
Better Man did.
So if you take a big swing, you're not going to get nominated. But if you sit right in that nice middle ground where people aren't going to get too weirded out by it, you're golden. You're fucking golden.
They're like, well, Bob Dylan.
I will say Elvis did take swings, and Elvis was nominated for Best Picture. So that is not in the same.
That's
true. Keeping with the same thing.
That's true. But also the swing was just Baz Luhrmann being weird. It wasn't like a huge,
like crazy creative decision.
Yeah. Well, I guess this was maybe on the same level as Rocket. No, Rocket Man did more weird stuff.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's fine.
It's just fine. Yeah. Did it make you want to listen to Dylan's music?
I mean, it did. Yeah, sure. I was like, oh yeah, I'll hit up his best stuff.
That's the thing, is you're not really like a lyrics guy. That's pretty much all of his music.
And that's why.
Lyrics.
But I'll still, I mean, he's still got some good melodies and like the, probably the more popular ones and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the lyrics, I'm like, oh, I respect him. Like as an artist, I was just like, I was never a hater, but I was never oh man, he's fucking awesome. I'm just like, oh, he's good. I respect him for what he does.
And now you're watching and you're like, I respect his art.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
Human being,
yeah, if anything, I think less of him in some ways, because he just kind of seems like an asshole and like full of himself, and like this movie really didn't disprove it.
No, in fact, it very much was playing into that.
And it almost feels like he's like, I'm still cool and still kind of like rock and roll despite being folk. Like he's the rock and roll of that folk music,
right?
Like,
exactly.
And I do appreciate that as a musician, he's able to like change whatever he wants to do, and I think that's really cool to be able to experiment with different genres, and I think that really shows a lot of range, and that's why I do respect him music wise. But as I see more of this, I think he's kind of an asshole.
Which I don't think he would disagree with.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he sounds like he's like, yeah, I know I'm an asshole, but that's how it is.
That's the way it was. Yeah.
Personally, I wouldn't hang out with him. If you're like, I'm an asshole and I don't want to change, but that's what makes you cool.
That's fair.
But also, that's pretty badass to be that way as a musician,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, being an asshole gets you to become like one of the most influential, singer-songwriters in 4 years.
4 years. You get to be in the intro to Watchmen. A montage.
Yeah, that's right. You do be in the intro to Watchmen.
Pretty crazy.
It's pretty impressive.
Been one of the biggest comic book movies that isn't a direct DC movie anyway. Or Marvel.
Yeah, that's true. Well, guys, it's the end of our Oscar
What did
month.
you think?
I thought it was fine.
Okay.
I didn't love it. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I thought it was just okay. Like
That's kinda
there's a
where I
lot I
feel about it.
appreciated. Again,
That's the thing is there's like parts where I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then so many
Yeah.
parts where I'm just like, fucking check off list,
Yeah, it weirdly only made me want to watch that other
Absolutely.
that other Bob Dylan movie.
Same.
But it also made me want to watch the documentary about that time again because it is so interesting to see. And this is the thing I think the movie suffers from, as I was mentioning earlier, is like we really don't get to know any of the other people around him.
No.
And we also don't really get to know him. And so it really feels more like we're like a fly on the wall in the events occurring. Whereas in the documentary, the entire documentary that I'm referring to, I wish I could remember what it was called. It wasn't Don't Look Back. I think it might have been called like a Rolling Stone or something like that. But it was talking to all of those musicians from that time and their perspective. And it's like, it's very illuminating and also very funny to see how angry they still are that he's not playing folk music.
So funny.
It made me appreciate that documentary even more. And it's like, I understand no one wants to watch, or not a lot of people want to watch a 4-hour-long documentary about Bob Dylan, but I appreciated that documentary.
It was a 2.5-hour-long movie.
It's true. With all the hits. Long movie. It is a long movie. And there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot that needs to be introduced. But I thought it was just fine.
It was just fine.
This honestly was not the worst movie nominated for Best Picture this year.
You know what? There's nothing problematic or promoting anything really bad about it.
Exactly.
So I mean, I think it's on the lower list for me, but
yeah. Well, guys, if you want to hear what our list is, check out our episode where we're going to discuss all the Oscar movies, movies we haven't talked about for the podcast. We've seen individually. We'll go over through that.
A bonus. That'd be a nice little bonus episode for you all. A little treat.
If you want to go back and listen to the ones we've listened to, we've recorded previously, you can find them on any podcatching app. And while you're there, please leave a 5-star rating and review. We will read in the show no matter what it says, even if it is the words of a important, influential singer-songwriter that is taking an old form of music and then reintroducing and reinvigorating the lyrics of them. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can we can email us, an email at theotherhalfpodcast.com, or you can find us on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Blue Sky, and we also have a Discord that you guys can check out. And yeah, so it's the end of our Oscar month. We're gonna have one more episode where we discuss it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I guess I don't want to talk about what our Oscar thoughts were because we have a whole episode for that.
Yeah,
it's not gated or anything. Anyone can listen to it.
Can listen to it, but I guess let's talk about at least really quick the ones that we have seen for the podcast. How about that? Obviously, this is not the worst one. The worst one is definitely Emilia Perez.
Definitely worse.
Very much worse.
Bottom.
Not even close. I would say for the ones we've seen, probably top tier would be I'm Still Here.
I think so.
And then what's the other one?
Conclave.
Oh yeah,
Conclave's really good
too. Yeah.
I really like Conclave.
Conclave's like a solid second choice.
Yeah, very much. Like I think. Well, kind of considering modern events, it sounds like Conclave might be happening pretty soon.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary and kind of weird.
Very freaky, very scary.
Freaky.
Yeah.
But I think that I did it. I think I'm Still Here is a more important movie. I think so too. I think it's a much more important, more powerful movie. Conclave is a very fun movie that also it's weirdly fun, intriguing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it does also make you think about a lot of things too. Like it is really kind of more political than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But I'm still blown away that movie's already PG.
I know. I
was thinking the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Because in our review, we're like, "This is a movie for old people." And I'm like,
no, anyone can watch.
Anyone can watch it. If you want to get a kid around, it'd be totally fine. They don't swear or anything.
I guess not.
And it's like, I guess there's like some scandals, and they just say like sexual stuff sometimes. But that's kind of it.
It's all pretty chaste over. I mean, I guess a movie about cardinals.
Yeah,
relatively.
What are they
going
to
like, motherfucker? You fucking piece of shit. And then I know they were putting A Complete Unknown right above Emilia Perez, but that's not.
There's a pretty big gap.
It's a massive gap.
Pretty big gap.
Like Complete Unknown gets like a C plus B. and Amelia Perez gets a
Although I will say Amelia
failing.
Perez is probably a more fun movie to watch because it's so fucking weird.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to endorse that movie despite it being
a lot of musicals this year, actually. Because
I know,
Amelia
right?
Perez, this, and then Wicked, which we'll be discussing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And then also 2 of the Best Picture nominated movies has Timothée Chalamet in it.
Yeah, good for that little guy. Good for that little guy and his little. I mean, I feel like he says more words. He feels like he doesn't say any words in Dune or this. Like he's pretty quiet. No, he says a lot of propaganda things in Dune. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But
and I guess in both movies he's playing a figurehead that is
kind of an asshole.
Yeah, kind of an asshole.
Kind of an asshole turns out.
Yeah.
But people really want to follow him and listen to him.
Yeah, and that's but I don't think I don't think Bob Dylan went down the same route as Atreides does.
He goes in full fascist mode at the end.
No, hopefully not. Good night, everybody.